This is Dance Studio 411, where we answer your real-life questions about your toughest studio life predicaments. Parent problems, teacher turnover, student challenges, policy dilemmas, and so much more. Let's talk about what's keeping you awake at night and what you can do about it. Here are your hosts, Suzanne Blake Garrity and Jill Tyrone.
Welcome, everyone, to this episode of our Dance Studio 411 podcast. And our topic today is about creating magical holiday shows with our very favorite, show producing guest and expert on all things performance, Miss Tiffany Henderson. Welcome, Tiff.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. I mean, the holidays are going to be upon us soon, and we thought it would be a really great opportunity to get to know a little bit about your own process behind creating holiday shows that are crowd-pleasing, the parents love, the dancers really enjoy. And I thought, especially as we kind of emerge through the pandemic, but we're not there yet, I thought it'd be great if you could kind of share a little bit about why holiday shows matter and what you've experienced as a studio owner and why this is important to you.
First and foremost, the holiday shows are that family tradition. So, obviously with Nutcracker, if you're doing Nutcracker, there's a lot of different types of holiday shows you can do, but it's the same music and for a good reason, because people every year, it's that tradition that they come back to, and that you hear that music in the studio and you think, oh, it's that time of year. And those are the milestones that are really important. Specifically, we work with children. And we're marking every year, and every year their development is different and there are different stages. And I think the hardest thing through COVID was kind of going on pause and going, okay, well, we don't get to do this year, but next year. But then, then the next year it's like, wow, you totally changed in 1 year, 7 years old. Now you're 9, and it's like a very different experience. So I really do feel like, I know the spring show gets that too, but the holidays is definitely more of that family tradition and just bringing back memories of last year, what happened. So I think us as studio owners can help them mark these milestones within their families. And that's why I think it's really an important thing to do.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, you're never going to get back your kids' 8th year of life at Christmas time or the holidays, whatever holidays you celebrate.
No.
It is a festive time of year. And I think it's easy to, we've all been survival mode, right? But dance is a performing art, and it's time for us to celebrate the performances, even if it looks a little different than what we maybe still envision. But we're going to talk about in this podcast today just how you're navigating those challenges and the many, many dance studio owners you work with all over North America and helping them navigate holiday shows. And so I think the first starting point, sort of for those of studio owners listening or dance teachers or who are doing both, is, how to get that parent interest or the families on board with a holiday show when we've just started back to, the school year. And I know you have a great system for this.
Yeah, it's fast and furious, right? So for a lot of you that are starting today, it's like the day after Labor Day and you're just opening, or you're opening in a week from now, you're kind of wondering, how in the world do I get them into class and then tell them we're doing a show and all that good stuff. And I know it's a little bit quick, but it really just starts with, and honestly, I did a Zoom meeting. I did a Zoom parent meeting. That's one of the silver linings from COVID. Parent meetings are always a little bit tedious and hard because people have to drive their car into your facility and sit in the chair, and then one person would ask a question that would lead us off topic. So Zoom meetings, you can totally set the tone. You get to lead exactly however you want it. So I had a presentation, just really simple, talked about our curriculum and our monthly thing, and then our performances for holiday. Kept it really simple, let them ask questions. And then that recording got sent out also to all of our parents. And then from there, we did a costume reveal email. So pretty simple. It's just an email that says, yay, you're doing a show. Aren't we so excited? Dance and Holiday Magic or Nutcracker. Here's what your costume looks like. And then here's the important part. We want you to do the show. And it's going to be this day, whatever, all the good news, right? And all the fun points. Don't give them too much information at the beginning. They don't really want it. That was like back in the early 2000s. They wanted a lot of information, but now the parent of today is like, just tell us what's fun. So you've got the costume in there, and then it says, you are going to be charged this much on this day if you don't want to do it. And if you don't want to do it, click here and opt out. That is the course that we take. We feel like it's better to have them tell us if they don't want to do it versus if they do. Because remember, a lot of times you'll get something like that as a parent and you go, oh, I need to do that. And just because you didn't say I want to do it doesn't mean you don't want to. It's just that extra step of clicking on that link, filling out the form and saying I do. So I think it's just making it easier for them to just do nothing. Right? They just do nothing. They read the email and say, yep, I'm a part of this. This is going to be great.
Parents are so busy. Let's assume everybody's participating until they raise their hand and say no. And that's how we approach it at our shows too, in the spring. It's like, let us know that you're not, but until that time, we're going to get all excited about this everywhere. Like everybody's on board. I love that.
Yeah. So that's been pretty successful for us. And I think it's a fast way to do it. If you're listening right now and you're thinking, how in the world do I put all this together? Like I said, it's as easy as sort of just saying, okay, pick a date, right? And we'll talk about that in a minute. Pick a date and then move forward with those steps I just said. Communicate with parents, create an email template that is interesting. Don't just send something with just a bunch of text in it or copy. They're not going to read it. And then, look into, we use a Google form for our opt-out.
Nice. And you have you've created it. It feels like an experience, which it is, like the holiday show experience. And then that includes a price, right?
Yeah. And I think this is another kind of COVID realization that, we used to have them just either we were charging them a flat fee for their costume. So they knew that whatever they paid was for that costume. And then things were sort of an add-on, and then they would buy tickets. And that was sort of the pre-COVID. Last year, we did our show. We ended up having to film it, but we called it the Dance and Holiday Magic Experience. And in that experience, we had a virtual thing, and then we had a filming. It included the costume. It included a bunch of things. And so we've kept in that same vein a participation fee, an experience fee. It does include their costume. It also includes, it's $99 for our general students, like twinkles and minis, a little more expensive for our older kids because you do have to take into account for, larger sizes and adult, things like that. But it would also include like a dancer medal or trophy or something we give them, something not totally outlandish, but something fun to commemorate their experience. And then it includes our digital download of the show for the video. We also are able to do pictures, photos, action photos, but that seems to go over just fine. I think that they understand that the costume in itself was usually somewhere between $65 and $85, and then the rest of that is helping with the experience and what you're doing. And if you're charging and you're managing the costume process, you're going to lose a little money on the back and forth sometimes. So you have to make sure that you have some of that built in when you're handling all this in-house for yourself.
Right. And that kind of leads us to, the studio owner who says, oh gosh, well, I'm still trying to recover financially from my spring show that didn't produce maybe as many ticket sales. What advice do you have for our listeners who are like, okay, I'm just a little trepidation over booking a venue right now. How do they manage that, or how would you suggest they proceed?
Yeah, I think play a fun game called Let's Do Some Math, right? And the only math I ever do is just on my cell phone with my calculator. But one of the big things that we missed last year, specifically our studio, was a ticket revenue. And not, really, yes, we missed the revenue. We really did because we were so down in students. But we missed that live audience, right? That feeling that you have when there's people sitting and applauding and the energy. So we calculate, or we estimate that we get anywhere between 5 to 6 audience members per student in the holiday shows. Now, that would mean some might only bring 4. It's just a kind of an average. So if you're playing that Let's Do a Math game, then you take the students that you have and you times that. If it's 100 students, then you're looking at, how many tickets would we need? How many tickets do we think we would sell? And then, what do we think that's worth? $15 to $18, $20, whatever you're thinking you can charge. Do that first. Just sort of see what you think your potential would be. I always go to your best scenario. Like if you've got 300 students right now, let's just say every 100% of your students are going to do that scenario first, and then maybe do like an 80% or whatever, just to kind of see where you are. And then you kind of look at the cost of the venue. And because that's going to be the biggest indicator of making money. your shows for dance studios are the big wild card. They're necessary, 100%. We really, really can't make it through the year on tuition alone all the time. So that's really important. And then you'll look at your margin in your participation fee, and making sure that there's a little something there because, of course, there's got to be. That's why we're a business. And add all that up, and then you kind of go, okay, so if this facility, if it's a church, if it's a rec center, you want to really think out of the box. And don't think dates have to be December 11th or the 18th. And why do I know that off the top of my head? Because I know when the holiday shows are this year, or December 4th, or whatever it is. Remember that the San Francisco Ballet Nutcracker runs before the holidays and in between the holidays and New Year's.
Yeah, and weeknights are fair game. Kids, guys, weeknights work. They really do.
Yeah, and then also Thanksgiving weekend is, I've heard, really a great time. It's the kickoff of the holiday season. So take whatever date you can get wherever you can get it. Obviously, if it's this giant theater that you can't fill and would be a stretch, I would advise against that. So if you can definitely stay within your budget, and then, have just whatever you do, just do it. Just start it, because I promise you it will become a tradition in your studio. It'll be something that everybody looks forward to. And then that extra revenue is really nice to, just really help during these months when we're still rebuilding to our student base.
So COVID really taught us that we need to have plan A, B, and C. And I think it's smart as a business owner to really always have that subject to change call out for your parents and their families. How are you navigating the potential, which I hope it isn't, if you had to go to a filming situation or not having a live audience?
Absolutely. We are looking for plans A, B, and C. And parents will ask you, well, what happens if? But I do feel like we've moved into a new phase of this pandemic where we're learning to live with the virus and what's around us. So I would say that, of course, I'll talk about backup plans that I think as you should, plan for it. But I don't think you should freak out about sometimes if you start to think about, well, what if we can't have it? Let's just not have it. We have to keep moving forward. We have to live with this because, like you said, we've already lost so much. These kids need it. So, but here's the backup plan. So it's all going to depend on the capacity of your theater. So look at historically what they've done. So if in your theater, in your venue, you can ask them, what were your restrictions prior? And were they 30%, 50%, whatever that is. Do you anticipate that? So have that conversation with your venue. And then you can say, okay, so if this, then, right? So, okay, so if it seats 500 and it could go to 50%, 250, then what we probably need to do as a backup plan is, engage the venue for longer. And you can tell them, listen, is it possible for me to take Monday through Saturday just in case? And I can release those dates as we get closer and we see that things are okay, or if we need them. Definitely look at that. That would be your first option if you're going to go capacity restriction. And because if you only take Saturday and we get closer and they're like, but we have somebody renting it for that week. Now that might mean your deposit is a little heavier or whatever, but I would talk with them about the language in your contract that says, listen, I'm taking these dates as a precaution. Be upfront with them about that so you're not held to it. Okay. Now, in the same vein of saying that, I was working with one of my studio consulting clients, and we were talking about, okay, you have 500 students. They're doing great. They've got 800 seats. And we're like, all right. And I'm like, you need 3.5 shows. I'm like, but it's enough. We'll fit them into 2. I'm like, yes, but you will sell more tickets if you do 4. Because even if you don't sell out, your potential is more. So when you're looking at your venue, if it's pretty cost effective and you're like, wow, this is a pretty good deal, it's almost better to not pack these shows out, make them shorter, make it, where parents can feel like it's more of a personal touch. And, if you can do 5 shows at 500 seats, it's more than 2 shows at 500 seats. So even if you don't sell the 2,000 tickets, you might instead sell 1,500, which would be a lot more than doing 2 shows. So I do think that also lends itself to just like take as much time as you can get that you can afford. And then the second thing, so then that's the plan B, right? Plan C, nobody wants to hear about it. Nobody wants to talk about it, but that is maybe we're filming or something like that. But never, ever, ever do you say, if we can't do it on stage, then it's just canceled and XYZ, because you've already ordered the costumes. There's nothing you can do. So you need to be upfront with your parents and say, listen, this is the experience. This is the experience we want to have. It's going to be in front of an audience. If that experience cannot happen, then this is what's going to happen over here. We'll go to that plan C. I think people are pretty prepared for that, I think now.
Yeah, they are. It's true. So we're going to forge forward. But I think with you and I both know with all the dance studio owners we work with, and I know that us personally as studio owners as well, we've kind of hit some walls of some burnout. And I know some people listening to this podcast might be like, oh, Tiff, I just don't have it in me to come up with the creativity, nor do my teachers, or maybe I don't have teachers to help me produce this show on such short notice. I mean, you've had to solve this by sheer how you have to do it at your studio. So share a little bit about your process and what you've come up with as a solution for the holiday show magic.
Yeah, well, and I think it's made more difficult now by what we're experiencing as a labor shortage in teachers. 100%. Now everybody's different depending on where you're listening to this from. But I have a lot of brand new teachers. I tried to solve this problem a long time ago, which is why I came up with our choreography videos that, if we talk about our holiday subscription, it says, you pick 30 videos, 30 dances, Frosty the Snowman, Rudolph, it goes all the way through our kindergarten through 3rd, 4th grade. It solves the problem. They get the dance right away. You can start teaching it right away, which is really important. I knew that was an issue 15 years ago, which is why I did it, because I was waiting for teachers to give me their music, and they were slow to tell me what song they were using, so I'd have to pick out a costume. Again, holiday show is fast and furious. It has to be planned like yesterday, and you as a studio owner, you have to have full control over everything. You have to be able to look at the catalog or look online and just assign the costumes today, assign the choreography, and go for it, because the children need time to learn. So that's where our holiday subscription with our choreography videos really comes into play, because I give them access to that, and they can start teaching the holiday dances in a week from now, which they will, because they've got everything they need to know. But also with your teacher shortage, if you do have that, you might have somebody you just hired that really has never done a little kid dance. They just graduated from a great college with a BFA in performance, but really they were doing modern and ballet, and now you're giving them a mini tap class. So that's where this comes in. And so it solves 2 problems. It solves the problem of the inexperienced choreographer teacher, and it solves the problem of the timeline. And, what you're talking about, burnout or just having to be creative. And a lot of times I think teachers really like that part. And I know they do. I know they do. You can let them choose the video. They can, whatever it is. But again, this type of show this year is so important for you, I think, financially, and to just get your students and your families excited. More of our families, they ask, when's the next performance? Because they now are more grateful for it. Then I think before it was we always get to do that. We'll never miss a Nutcracker. It's okay if we miss one, there'll always be next year. We know now, we don't know that. The tools that we have, I think, are where I developed for my own issues, if for lack of a better word, throughout the years, and they are still ringing true now.
Well, and that's what I've seen the Dancing Holiday Magic, some of the choreography in motion from our past fashion shows we've done. We've seen it at Twinkle Star events. One of the things that I know as a studio owner that really matters is that quality control across all classes, so that that the quality of the dance routines that are out on that stage match. And so the other thing that I think this helps for all of you listening is that you can get everybody aligned with like, this is the show we're producing. Everyone can get excited on the teacher side for like, hey, this is going to be crowd pleasing. It's age appropriate. It's absolutely rooted in your curriculum basics. Like there's so much fundamental dance happening here. And I love it when I can watch a show and it feels cohesive and you're not like, oh, that's Miss Sarah's class and that's not as good, right? I mean, can you speak to that a little bit?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, and also I feel like because it's so fast, so if you're just bringing your students back today or next week, think about your 3-year-olds. They're very 3, like they're fresh 3s. They're not 4 because by the springtime, your students are almost a year older and they've had an entire year to learn how to take a dance class, all that good stuff. And I'm not just talking about our twinkles, and, even your like, kindergarten through 3rd, 4th grade students. So if you give them something too advanced for this holiday show, it's not going to work. It's got to be simple, but simple is really tricky because if it's so simple, it looks like nothing, then it looks like nothing. So the art, I think, of what we do is taking things that are easy and simple and that make them look like they're doing something and really make something exciting on stage. So that, I think, is the real challenge for anyone doing this, is that you might make the mistake of creating something that you would normally do, first of all, for an older dancer, because by the time they're in the spring show, they are a year older. They've also learned a lot more, and you have more time to teach them. So for our holiday show choreography, it's all based on simplicity and fun and crowd pleasing. And then also it lends itself for the studio owner to say, all right, let's have a conversation about staging. Because an inexperienced teacher is going to try to do like diagonals, running through lines, X's, things that no one should ever try. So, and because that looks like fun. And then they don't know it's a problem and I want to talk about something about dress rehearsal in just a second, but until they get a little closer to the show. And guess what? You know what closest time to the show is? The holidays. The time when people are out of town. Oh, I missed my class. Why aren't the kids coming? Well, it's Thanksgiving week, but you've waited until now to either finish the dance or now you realize that your master formation is not going to work. So that's why this is super important. Also, and I don't mean to change the subject so much, but I think this is important about dress rehearsal. So dress rehearsal costs money and it's time. If you can do it, do it. But for the most part, your general students and those parents, they just don't want to come to dress rehearsal anymore. And I know it pains us all. But the truth is a dress rehearsal is not effective with half the class there. That's not a dress rehearsal. That's just half the class on stage that now have a totally new formation. So we aren't able to do dress rehearsal with all these students. We can't. We don't have the time and we don't have the money to do it, which means you've got to keep things simple. So with your formations, if you've got your teachers, like you said, aligned cohesively with like you're all teaching Frosty the Snowman to this group, then you can say, all right, let's talk about formations. If you have more than 8 students, they're in 2 lines. Then they're going to switch lines at 1 minute 30, and then they're going to go to an ending pose. So you can have more control over the quality and what comes out at the end. Now, I will say one more thing before we move on. Obviously, we do a full-length Nutcracker. You've got older students. You've got, you're going to let those teachers just run and do what they want with that. But those classes will be a smaller percentage, I think, than your general students, which I think it's more of a challenge.
Mm-hmm, exactly. So I know you have your Dancing Holiday Magic and mini choreography, Nutcracker. We're going to link out to in the show notes the various holiday shows. And I want to talk a little bit about the costumes too. But when you incorporate this into classes, how are in preschoolers and elementary school age, when are your teachers introducing this choreography and are they doing it right out of the gate in the fall?
Yeah, so in our lesson plan right now, we have slated September 24th as the first day to start classes. So I think that day is a Friday. And so whoever has a Friday class will start that day. And then all the classes start teaching then. We have released, though, all of the choreography to them already. So all of our teachers have all of their videos, their music, everything. So we're giving them a few weeks to learn what they need to teach. Now, like you said, it's top-down curriculum. So in your curriculum, you have certain things you're working on, then you hope to see those things in the recital dance. If all of a sudden you're throwing out like a buffalo to, well, obviously that's going to be, that's a stretch. Now, if we have 6 months, we can work on that and that becomes a part. But I think also what's nice is that the teachers see the video, they see what they're going to teach, they see where they're headed. Then they can go, oh, okay, we need to spend more time on this part in the class now, because that's going to be a challenge for them. And you do want to have parts in your dances that are a challenge, that, that do hook the audience, right? But you can't have that happening through all 2 minutes and 30 seconds. You can have like that one reach part that they work towards. So, I recommend that this gets started around that time. October 1, maybe the latest that you start on these dances, but that would give them, depending on when you're doing your shows, a full 2.5 months. If you have, as you're a teacher and you've got the entire dance in front of you, then you can parcel out how to deliver it. If you're making up the dance as you go, you don't quite know where the roadblocks are going to be because you haven't quite developed it yet. So it does help you parcel out, okay, this week we'll just start with this section and then next week we go on or whatever. And then, you want to be done maybe by November 1.
Yeah, and that's what I love about the work you've done through Twinkle Star Dance, and what I've learned from you, Tiff, and watching the success of our studio owner members and subscribers who employ this Dancing Holiday Magic or your pre-done curriculum with the choreography, is that you've also taken it one step further. And I know that as a partner with Revolution Dancewear, you've taken the guesswork out of the costume pairings too, because I know right now too, we want to get our families excited about costumes again, and the kids look forward to that. And so you have pairings that if someone does subscribe to your holiday show choreography, they get a pairing list for costumes, right?
That's right. So we try to make it really simple and easy. We know this is a really, really, really busy time of the year. And if you get stuck in that busy part, you'll miss this great opportunity for yourself and your students. So what we did is we took all of our choreography videos. So if you do have this subscription to the videos, and we just assigned a costume to each dance. So like, this is what we think is best for Sugar Plum Fairy. This is what's best for Boogie Woogie Santa Claus. Of course, you could use any costume you wanted, but this makes it easy. So many of our subscribers just go, just give me that list, and here we go, plug and play, no problems. Then it's easy to do that costume reveal, emails, and like that timeline that we talked about, just like getting this off the ground. And I also want to mention that if you are a subscriber, the curtsy line for Twinkle Star Dance that Revolution has and I have worked together to create, there's special pricing also for those select costumes. I believe there's about 20 styles, and there's special pricing just for subscribers. So a little bit goes a long way. Mm-hmm. Sometimes that extra $2-3 plus whatever you're getting for your participation fee and your tickets, that will make you smile, specifically right now if you're like, oh my gosh, we're starting with this many students, but we really want this many. This could help you bridge the gap in that revenue just for this first part of the year.
Yeah. And I think it's a good reminder for our listeners as we wrap up here, just remember that parents really will do whatever they can to bring up the joy and magic for their child right now. And everybody is looking forward to something to celebrate, big or small, whatever that is, bringing grandma back out and grandpa and like family and friends. And so if you're thinking about a holiday show and you've just been like, oh, I don't know if I can do it, I highly encourage you reach out to Tiffany and the team at Twinkle Star Dance, because you and Amanda will answer any questions people have, but you can get started right away. You have a supportive community of subscribers. I know many of our members cross over into both, and just happy to share the successes of producing the performing arts again out on stages is awesome. So the best way for people to reach you?
Oh, yeah. Well, you can reach me at twinklestardance.com. That's our website. Sadly, my email address is a Gmail now. So I'll share it with you guys because it's really fun. But it's T as in Tiffany, D as in David, A as in Apple, Tiffany at Gmail. And also info at Twinkle Star Dance is a great way to get in touch with us. We also are on Facebook, and we'd be happy to chat with anybody who's interested in just finding out more about, what the program is like. Obviously, we're talking about the choreography, so that's just a different subset of what we do. But that's sometimes a great way to start, to just get involved in our community. And the last thing I want to say, because you said, is any parents who want to give this opportunity to their students, if you're starting new and you don't really know how to get this going, one of the best ways to do it is just start teaching the dances. If you start teaching these dances in class and they hear that holiday music, they're going to go, oh, wait, are we doing a show? Is this their dance? Oh my gosh, how can we do it? So, that's also another way to just kind of just dive in and get it started. And I think we all want to jumpstart on the holidays this year. I think I'm ready. I'm ready for the pumpkins. I'm ready. I'm done with summer. I'm totally ready.
Yeah, and it is. Like you said, you can, if you're not ready to do the full-fledged show, start with the choreography and get those kids excited. Children are magical thinkers when they're young, and they just need more of this. So we can make it happen with our masks on. We can make it happen with beautiful costumes on stages, in studios, all of it. And so thank you, Tiff. I know you have so much wisdom through the many, many hundreds and hundreds of holiday shows you've produced. I really appreciate your time, and I know our listeners do too.
Well, thank you so much. My pleasure.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Dance Studio 411. Visit us online at dancestudio411.com for more great resources and to submit a question for a future episode. Our number one goal is to help you build a successful dance studio business and keep your passion for dance alive.